Welcome. I'm Janelle Kolaski, a career mindset coach and actor.
And I'm Amanda Dubois, a self-authenticity and prosperity life coach and actor as well. And we're your co-host of Mindset Artistry YouTube channel,
where we teach you the art of discovering and using your mindset
to build a career and life you desire.
We're going to talk about how to take actions as the person that you want to be. Hello, Cyrus. So good to see you. Happy Friday. Happy weekend, everybody. It sounds kind of funny, maybe, but I just had a recent moment like this. I called up my dear friend Amanda here. I was having a situation with someone, and I was like, Amanda has a component of the person that I want to be in the future. This person that maybe doesn't let certain things get to her, which I love about you. And so I decided to ask her, what would you do in this situation? Because in the future, and knowing that I want to work a lot more with, it's actually something with my agency, and I wasn't sure about how I wanted to respond to them because it wasn't a business thing. It was more of an interpersonal thing. Interpersonal relationships mean a lot to me, and that's usually something that I have to work on the most. So the future version of myself would not be bothered by so many things interpersonally. So I have to think, when I'm in the situation now, how will the future self respond if it's a person that's fully confident in themselves and knows what they want? And thank you, Mel. And isn't afraid of conflict or whatever these things that you have to be if you want to work full-time in an industry like fashion and entertainment. So I decided to call up a friend and be like, what would you do in this situation? But before I pass it over to Amanda, I just gave that brief example because it sounds kind of funny to do this, but you really should take the time of, like, and Amanda and I do this exercise all the time. What do you want your future to look like? Who are your friends? What are you doing day to day? Like, what does the day look like day to day? And how does that person talk to others? What relationships do they have? All of these things. And then you want to strive to be that. But it's not easy if you haven't always been that person. And all of us are hopefully constantly evolving until we die. And so it's really evaluating where you're at, setting those clear goals, and then making a plan to slowly get there little bit by little bit, just taking small action steps to be the person that you want to be in the future. And Amanda will probably talk a lot about the blocks, and we can also get into energetics. But Amanda, I would love to hear what you have to say about everything that I've said so far.
Yeah, I mean, I relate to everything that you're saying, and I appreciate it's like phone a friend, that get that hotline if you're on a the game show, you have a choice. You can like phone a friend, ask the audience member. It's like phone a friend, or wait 24 hours. A lot of the things about your future self is that you have to think of it as your future self teaching your current self the things to do or think about, or how to react and what to do and what not to do. And that can be a little bit difficult because we're in the current state of our mind, right? We haven't seen the outcome. We haven't experienced the outcome. So how can we know the solution if we don't know the outcome already, right? And these are like the assumptions, the questions, the unknown, the idea of like the unbecoming of the version of ourselves. And so it takes a lot of work. And the thing is, the things that I just recently was coming into recognition is that you have to look at your future self, the version of you that's the most successful, that's whatever that vision is for you. Is she or he or they are confident when they walk in rooms? Are they really thoughtful when it comes to decision making? Are they surrounded by people who are supportive? Do they take vacations when need to? Do they know how to say no when they want to and not people please? Right? As you think of these things, you have to give yourself permission to ask those questions now in the current version of yourself. So it's like, I know it's so odd to say, but energetically, you have to sit down with your future self, mentally, physically, and emotionally. So you have to sit down, and I do this quite often, and lately I've gotten back into it, is I meditate and I clear my mind of anything that is happening right now because it's unimportant in that moment. And then I tap into that higher version of myself, the most successful self, because it's out there. If you think about the energetics, and the version of yourself already exists with you, and it's just again a bit trapped. But you just sit down and ask, once you clear your mind, how could I improve myself? What do I need to know? Is this good for me? Does this align with my values? How can I grow? All the things. And as you do, you'll start making choices in your current space that it's going to align with your future self. That's what, yeah. I know it sounds crazy, but it's actually quite true.
Yeah, it's the way to do it. And if you've never done something like this and it is feeling a little crazy, as I just said in the beginning, you're surrounded by people that inspire you. So Amanda inspires me, and then I have other people that have these traits that I really aspire to be. And that means that you are capable. If it's something that you want, whether it's, there's something, a career choice that somebody's made and that's exciting to you, it means you can have it too, but it'll be your own version. And the same thing with these characteristics or traits or lifestyles or relationships that you want to have. If you see an someone's ringing the bell. Uh-oh, the dogs. So it just goes to show that if you have those examples in your life, that it is possible, and you can use that community around you to ask questions. Did you ever struggle with this? Or what do you do in this situation? So if you see somebody that's in a really healthy, good relationship, you can ask that person, how did you set the boundaries that you needed to have that positive relationship? How did you decide what you really wanted or needed? Can you walk me through that process? And then you can start to build action steps based on the information that you get. Hello there. And I was just referring to relationships. Like if somebody has, hello, Dip. If somebody has a relationship maybe that you want, like I used to be in a lot of really bad relationships, and then the ones that really inspired me, I noticed that the people had strong boundaries and their values really aligned, and if they had conflict, they would work it out. And I noticed within myself, I wasn't setting strong boundaries, and I maybe was afraid of conflict or really working it out. And so to get the good relationship I have now, I was like, the person that has that does these action steps. So I would love if you could give examples of people you've seen in your life that inspired you, maybe a specific example, and how you turned what they did into your own action steps and how that made a big change for you.
Yeah, one of the things that came to mind is, without being so specific, is, there are a lot of people in my family who have dealt with a lot of traumatic situations and traumatic experiences. And some have chosen a darker path, and I've had family members who have gone to substance abuse to, alleviate the pain and the pressure. And then there are others who have not. And through the trials and tribulations, have come through the other side. And that's so inspiring to me because it shows that even in the darkest of space, even in the darkest of times, and even in these experiences that were traumatic, you can come out the other side and like find the joy and happiness and love still. And that has been inspiring to me. I try to do that, is I try not to hold on too much on things that may feel painful, even in the past or even currently, because it does affect you in your current space. And so that has been one of the things that I've paid attention to, is learning and adapting and overcoming and practicing like kindness and compassion and healing those traumatic situations, whatever that may be, because everybody's traumatic situation is different. What I find traumatic may not necessarily be traumatic to Janelle, because we experience things differently. So you can't tell someone that it's not, it doesn't matter, it's not that serious, which I've heard many times. It's not true. It's serious for them. It feels, it's heavy for them, but it may not be for you because you don't feel that way about that certain situation or that person or whatever the circumstances may be. And so for me, is that's one of the things that I've recognized, is finding that you can still be a happy person, love wholeheartedly, even through the heartbreak, even through the pain and suffering, even through the traumatic situations, that love still exists, happiness still exists. And that's one of the things that I treasure the most in any situation, that it will pass. It may not feel that way in the moment, but it's one of the things that I've tried to cling on to as much as I can, because it gives me a sense of hope, a sense of there's a resolution in the end, or if there is an end, there is something that's going to resolve it. You know what I mean? And so I love keeping that close to my heart, and those people that have gone through those situations. And I don't even blame those who haven't healed, because I understand too. So I have a sense of empathy as well. That's something that I've learned. But it's encouraging to know that at the end of the day, everything is your choice. Everything can be a choice. You can choose to be the version of yourself that is healed. If you want to be in a healthy relationship, like Janelle said, is looking at those healthy relationships. What does that healthy version of that self or that person look like in that relationship? It's independent, but you know, they have the individualities, but they come together. It's communication, it's setting boundaries. What does love, what is love for you? What are your values? And that goes for career as well. That goes for your friendships. That goes for your self-care. Self-care is very important to me. And I value my alone time, my sense of self. I value it so much. So for me, that is something I also hold on to, and recognize that my future self needs that, needs the self-care. And so I hope that makes sense, because I feel like I'm rambling a bit, but it's one of those days I'm like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I love that. And I think, I mean, we're about to wrap up here, but the same thing I did for my career. It was like I kept meeting people that were working more than me. I would pay attention. How are they handling rejection? What did they say they were doing? How were they approaching the business of modeling and acting? And slowly I started to compile a list. And it's not really exactly what they're doing, it's the basic action step, such as being consistent or treating the business like a business. And handling rejection, you can do that in so many different ways, but the fact that they're handling it and not letting it have an impact on them. And so you can do it for any aspect of your life. But before we end here, just to do a quick recap for everybody that's just joining, is that so you have to evaluate, like, where do I want to be? Really go there. Dare to dream, as Amanda and I always want you to do. Write out the type of life that that person has. Reflect where you are currently. Maybe you're already kind of like that person, which you are, but like doing a little bit. But you're like, oh, I could do a little bit more here, or tweak this, or I'm not doing that at all. How can I instill these new habits? And kind of set a goal, and nothing too crazy. And Amanda can finish up on this, but like something that feels attainable. You always want to make really small habits because you want to feel like you're succeeding. You want them to push you, but it takes time to change. You have to embrace change and understand that it's a learning curve. You can take 2 steps back forward, maybe 2 steps back, 5 steps forward, 10 steps back, whatever. But just be open to understanding and welcoming that type of process. And then eventually over time, you repeat the process, keep evaluating where you want to be and where you currently are. You'll start to notice, like, hey, I'm acting like that future self. I didn't get that audition, but I didn't take it as hard. I walked in that room a lot more confidently, like I saw my peers. That person was a total dick for no reason, happened tonight. It didn't affect me as long as it usually does, ladies and gentlemen. That's a big deal. Because it used to annoy me for days. So also be proud of yourself, have gratitude for the experience. What can I learn from this is what I asked myself. And then also just be grateful to yourself and have compassion. Like I just said, like, okay, I didn't handle that like I want my future self to, but I definitely I've made progress. It keeps freezing up on here, but it's not freezing up over here. So, all right.
Yeah.
But whatever
Oh,
you have to add to wrap us up in regards to that process.
okay. Uh, yeah, I think what came to mind when you were speaking about, you know, looking to other people, just be conscientious and aware of, don't believe everything that everybody tells you, because not everything that other people do will work for you. And so you really have to take inventory as to who you are, what you value, what you care about, what your goals are, what things look like for you, meaning what does success look like for you? What does love look like for you? What does it feel like? And I understand there's a lot of people that don't know what love feels like, but be open to what love could possibly be, is what I would say. Same thing goes for success. Same thing goes for your financial struggles. Just because you didn't come from money doesn't mean that you can't have it. Those are examples, those were lessons, but they don't have to be your story. They don't have to be your future. Those are great examples of, well, you know what that felt like. Now you know there's the opposite. There's something else. There's something better. And you got to thank those experiences in order to get to the place that you want to go as well. And that's the thing that your future self is probably going to tell you now is like, thank every situation you've been through. I know it sounds crazy, especially if you have been in a down and out in the darkest of places. You've been, living in your car, or, all these things. Just know that those experiences will have made you better because of the evolving experience that you've dealt with, the feelings, the things that you were able to tap into. And I know it sounds, again, I'm not diminishing those stories, and I'm not saying that everybody should have those type of stories, but understand that everything happens for a reason. It's happening for you and not to you. And when you recognize those things, and that's how your future self is going to recognize, because if you look at the most successful people, they'll tell you their story and they'll go back to everything. It's like, I wouldn't change a thing. They wouldn't change a thing, because without those experiences, without the version that you were then, you would not be the version that you are now, or the future self that you're going to be. And all of these are attainable. It's just leveling up and changing direction, or expanding yourself and being willing to grow, being willing to be vulnerable, be willing to fail, be willing to do all these things that are a part of that future version self. And again, going back to, don't take everybody's word for it. Do your own research, do your own trial and error. Take everything that people are saying, and then you do your own experiments. What does that, is like sleeping, doing my work early in the morning better for me? Really take inventory of how your current life is, and how their advice can possibly not fix it, but fit into it, and then help get you to the next level. And again, be open and be willing to make some mistakes, to change your mind, realize that, oh, maybe that doesn't work for me, but that's great, it worked for them. And don't be shameful or feel guilt or angry with yourself or disappointed in the fact that that one step you did didn't quite work out. That's absolutely okay. Guess what? You tried. And a lot of people don't try. A lot of people are so comfortable in their state of mind and their state of being, and everything that they're in, that they'll make excuses and they'll live in the victimhood of their life rather than the hero version of themselves, and taking those bigger and steps to get to where they want to go. So that's where I would say, I hope that helps you, because that is something to recognize and keep in mind as you're going through this journey, because your future self has already experienced this and knows this. And so as you do the quiet time and spend more time with yourself, you'll get clearer on what your inner voice is saying, what your inner voice needs, what your inner self needs, and what they truly desire, and your gifts and your talent and what you're meant to do. And you'll open the pathways to receive everything that you desire and want. So thank you for joining us today.
What are your thoughts about this episode?
Drop it in the comments and let us know what you want to dive into next.
Subscribe, like, share, and click the link below to book a free consultation. And
we'll see you next time.